So we have one talk and then a discussion session. And so our final speaker is Pierre Gaillard, and he did his PhD a few years ago with EDF in the area of online learning, and is now a researcher at INRIA and ENS.
Well, thank you. Okay. Thanks for being here. So I'll present some work. Okay, do you hear me? Okay. I will present some work that I'm doing with a PhD student, essentially Margot Breger, who is doing a PhD at EDF, and two other researchers, Gilles Stolz at Université Paris Sud and Yannick Good. And the goal will be to try to track some electricity consumption by using by sending price signals to clients. We will see. So I guess for the introduction, most of you are aware of it. So electricity is hard to store at large scale, and you always need to balance consumption and production. The current solution in most installation is to forecast electricity and then adapt the production to the consumption, but it has some limitation. For instance, with renewable energies, it's hard to adapt the production because you don't really control renewable energies. And another problem is like, if possible, we'd like to avoid a peak of consumptions because it's costly. So the idea is to use the flexibility of consumers to try to influence their consumption by sending signals like price signals, like with high price or low price, to make the consumption match some target production. And as you know, Sean told yesterday that it was not a good idea to target the consumption with price signals. But I guess here I'm talking about price signals, but the goal will be to learn how to optimize some signals, and these signals could be anything. Like it could be any kind of signals that are sent to clients, and we like to learn the clients or the consumers' behavior and adapt how to optimize these signals to modify their consumption. So there will be two objectives: learn the client behaviors and optimize simultaneously the signals. So this is the scope and the objective of this talk. So we will consider some public data sets for experiments. So it's like a data set from UCA Power Network. I guess some of you already talked about this data set earlier. It's a data set about London households. Yeah, London households, where you have like individual consumption at some half-hour interval in 2013, and you have like roughly 1,000 price-sensitive clients who we are submitted like high, low, or normal prices beforehand, and there are some measurements of their electricity consumption that try to see if if there is some price sensitivity. So to have some idea about the electricity consumption. So this would be like the classical behavior of electricity consumption in 5 consecutive days. So it's like the global consumption of the consumers, like just aggregated consumption. And when price signals are sent, like for instance, I guess high in dark blue, low in green, and the normal price in blue, we see that for high price the consumption just decrease with respect to normal consumption, and with low price there is an increase of consumption. This is like this is with some simulated model, so maybe the model is false, but we will see. because the issue is like we only on the dataset we only observe the consumption for the signals that was sent. So we observe here that like some high price signals was sent, and we observe this consumption, but we don't know what would have been the consumption with the true signal. And so fitting some model on the data, we could simulate what would have been the consumption, and this is what we would expect to have been the gain. But we don't know what would have been what would have been this difference in practice. And here we see like that this price sensitivity depends on some contextual variables. Like for instance, here it's like the average consumption of the consumers according to time. So here you have like the hour in the day, like from 1 to 24, and you get the average consumption over the year when you had like the normal tariff, the normal price. And when you had like the low price, you see that the average consumption is gets higher, and the same for high tariff. Like when you had like the normal tariff, you had some average consumption, and when when you use the high tariff, you see a decrease of the consumption, which depends on the hour. And we see that in the data set, like high tariff, high price level was only sent between 17 and 20. Between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. during the peak of consumption, and low tariff was sent during the morning only, during low consumption. It's like so we don't have like observation of all behaviors. And so, as I told you, since in the dataset we only observed the consumption for the price levels that were sent to the clients, we don't really know what would have been the consumption for other tariffs. So to run our experiments for later for our algorithm to influence the consumption of the clients, we need to build some simulator to know what would be the reaction of the clients to different signals. So we don't know what would have been the consumption for different price signals at some time, and so to simulate or to have an idea about the performance of the different algorithms, we needed to build some simulators. And to do the simulators, the idea of the simulators that we did was just to take some contextual variable like temperature or calendar variables, plus some price level, and give some global consumption of the clients. So we only consider the consumption at a global level, at an aggregated level, and we assume that we have some homogeneous customers. And to build these simulator for our simulations, we fitted a generalized additive model on the dataset. So just to give an idea about what is a generalized additive model, so this is like a model that models the consumption, the output, as a sum of different effects of context, of contextual variables. So, for instance, in our model, this is not the exact formula that we used, but the consumption of the global consumption of the clients was modeled as some effect due to temperature. So, if you have like low temperatures, you have like higher consumption. So we are not in the US, so we don't see like an explosion of the consumption for high temperatures. And plus, so there is some effect due to temperature, plus some effect due to the position in the year. If you are like in winter or during summer vacation, you get some drop of consumption, and some trends like the consumption of clients the global consumptions tends to increase during the year. So this is not on the data set I was showing earlier. But if you this is another data set about French consumption, and if you fit such model on the consumption you could see that it match quite okay the true consumption. And to run our simulator, we fitted this kind of model to the London dataset, and then we predicted for some contextual variables plus price level what would be the average or the expected consumption of the global population, and we added some noise like with some autoregressive model to forecast consumption. So this is our simulator. And to summarize, to recap our objective. So our objective is to optimize the price signals to influence the consumption of some clients, to match some target consumption. And well, in a practical way, actually, I'm more. I guess you are more aware than me about all energy or practical tools to do that, but I guess we could use like smart meters or some new communication tools that are installed in households, for instance in France. And we see our optimization problem of signals as some sequential problem, like at each time step. So we have like some discretization of time, like for instance each hour or each day. We observe some contextual variables of the next time period, like temperature or some meteorological variable or some calendar variable. What is the hour? What is the type of day? Then, after observing these contextual variables, you decide. You get some target consumption from the electricity producer. That is like the consumption that we would like to match. To be as close as possible. You choose some price signal to send to the consumers, and you observe the global consumption of the clients. You observe at the end of the day, like at the end of the time period, you observe what was the true consumption of the clients for these contextual variables and for the price signals you chose. And from this observation, you try to learn the reaction of the clients to the price signals, and you update your strategy to choose later new price signals or new to adapt to the clients. So this is the sequential problem we are trying to solve.
Yeah. For the clarification.
Yeah.
What do the consumers have any forecasts of the prices in the future? Or is it just being revealed in real time?
Okay, so currently, like we assume some, yeah. I guess the consumers, it's like some theoretical problem. So the consumers we assume that the consumers get some price signals in advance, and then they can adapt their consumption according to it. But in this theoretical framework, we don't really assume that they anticipate future. I guess we assume that there is a behavior of the clients for a context and the price signal for these hours. We don't assume that there is some anticipation of future price signals that will be afterwards. I guess we could do it. We could do it by plugging the price signals in the contextual variables. But okay. We assume there is some context, there is some target, some price signals, and knowing this, the clients have some consumption that we observe, and we try to optimize the price signals. So there are two simultaneous objectives. Simultaneously, we want to learn the client's behaviors and to optimize price signals. So it's like some kind of exploitation dilemma. We want to try different price signals to learn what is the reaction or what is how the client will react to different price signals. but we want to optimize price signals to match the target consumption simultaneously. So there is like a trade-off between how you should exploit the problem by sending good price signals and how you should explore to know more about clients' behavior. And to model this exploration-exploitation sequential problem, we use the Milgram bandit theory, or as I don't remember who, but a few days ago said, we use the active learning theory. So I'll do a recap about multi-arm bandits because I don't assume all of you know a lot about it. So what's multi-arm bandit or active learning? It's some very simple stochastic model. So you have some a set of actions like or arms. It's called arms in multi-arm bandits. So you have k arms. K is some positive number. And each arm or each action is associated some unknown reward distribution, with some expected value mu k. So you have like for instance the arms could be different machines like it's like bandits like. Different machines in a casino, and each of the machine is associated some reward if you pull the arm of the machine, and the goal would be to try the different machines and get some rewards and try to find the best of the machines as fast as possible while losing as little money as possible. So you sequentially pick some arm. You get a reward which is with expected value, which is the expected value of the arm you chose, and the goal is to maximize your cumulative reward, like the sum of the sum of the rewards that you got over time. And there is an exploration-exploitation trade-off as the one we had, because you need to try all arms or all machines to have an idea about what is their distributions, but simultaneously you don't want to lose too much money, so you need to pull more arms that are better. And what's application or motivations for multi-arm bandits? Okay, typically it's not maximizing gains in casino because it's hopeless. In this case, you want to try to maximize your reward. You will try to minimize your loss. So I guess it's not really for this problem, but this is where the name came from. The historical motivation was from Thompson in 33, and it was about clinical trials. So the goal was we had like some set of patients, and for the TS patients in some clinical study, you try to choose some treatments. So arms are different treatments. You observe the response of the patients to the treatment, and you said, okay, this patient was healed, so this treatment should be a good one. And the goal is to maximize the number of patients healed while during the experiment. And nowadays it's quite successful, multi-arm bandits, because it has many applications coming from internet. You like in recommender systems or mostly in online advertisements. Like each time you go to some web page, you see some advertisements, and sometimes to choose what ad the website is showing to you, to optimize it, to maximize the probability that you are clicking on the ad, they are using a multi-arm bandits problem. What's the objective of multi-arm bandits is to maximize the expected cumulative reward. So you have like you want to maximize your expected reward. Okay, if you know in advance what are the distributions of all machines of all arms, you could say, okay, in this case I'm the oracle who knows everything. I will just pull the best arm at every time step. Every time I'm just taking the best machine. And in this case, this is the best you could do if you knew everything in advance. This is what we call the oracle. You take the action that maximizes its expected reward, and you play it at every round. And so instead of maximizing the cumulative reward, what we will try to do is to minimize the difference between this optimal policy, this oracle, and your reward, which is what we call the regret. It's like regret analysis, the difference between an optimal policy, which would know everything in advance, and your policy, or your choice of arms. And so typically, if you maximize your cumulative reward, it corresponds to minimize the regret, because there is a minus here. And if you have like a good bandit algorithm, what you want is to have a sublinear regret. So that this regret, the difference between the performance of the optimal policy and your performance, divided by t, goes to 0 over time. So it means that your average performance tends to the average performance of the optimal policy, and so it means that you are learning something. And so this is multi-arm bandit. And a first algorithm to solve this problem is to first explore. So draw each arm a certain number of times. You draw each arm like m times. You compute like the empirical mean of each of the arms to have an idea about the expected reward. And you, for the remaining times, you just keep playing the arm with the best the best empirical reward. So first you explore, you try each arms, then you estimate the reward, and then you exploit by pulling just the best arm. And actually, we can show that this policy is not that bad. It has like some good properties, but there are some questions: how to choose M? Why do you draw each arm the same number of times at the beginning during exploration phase? And it's not really sequential. First exploration, then exploitation. So it's only valid for a fixed time step. And so the more common policy is upper confidence bound, and it works as follows. So upper confidence bound strategy, it will do exploration and exploitation simultaneously over time. So for each arm at each time step, it will build some confidence interval. So here are like, for instance, three different arms, and in red are like the expected reward of the arms. In blue are the estimation of the algorithm, well, in this case, and in here it builds some confidence intervals around some expected value for each of the arms, and it pulls the arm with the highest upper confidence bound. So first, for each of the arm, it builds some confidence interval. So lower confidence bound, upper confidence bound, and then it is optimistic in the sense that it acts as if the best possible rewards were the true rewards. So it takes all upper bounds for the expected rewards, and it chooses the arm that maximizes it. So it's optimistic. It seems that the best possible actually happens. And these optimistic principles leads to some exploration, because if you pull some arm quite less often than some other arms, its confidence interval will be much larger, and you will finish by pulling it just to reduce the confidence interval because the other confidence intervals are decreasing. So here is an example of just how it works. For instance, we start with some three arms with different means, and we after one trial we have like some estimation of the mean, and we can continue to pull arms, and we see that we pull much more. Here is the number of times we pulled each of the arms actually, and we pulled much more the arms with the highest mean, but we still pull the other ones a few number of times to try to exploit the best arm and to explore. So if you use this kind of algorithm, one of the questions is how what upper bounds on the confidence interval should you use? Okay, there are several, according to the concentration inequalities that you use, you can get different types of upper bounds. but the classical one used in upper confidence band algorithm is this one, like the empirical mean of the arm plus something which increase in log t, square root of log t, so it increases over time, the upper bound, and decreases with 1 over square root the number of times you pulled this specific arm. So the more times, the more you pull the arm, the smaller the band is. And if you use this upper bound with UCB algorithm, you can show that the cumulative regret, the expected cumulative regret, will be of order of square root of t log t. So the difference between your expected performance and the expected performance of the best possible policy that you don't know in advance is decrease in average at a rate 1 over square root of t. Okay, back to our problem. So what's the link between bandits and what we want to do? So what we want to do is optimize tariffs or price levels to track some electricity consumption. So the arms will be the different actions that we can take, so different price levels. And we first do some non-realistic toy model. First, we assume that there is no impact of contextual variables on price sensitivity, and we send the same price signals to all the clients. We have like some homogeneous population, and we either choose like a high price level to all clients, or we send a low price level to all clients. So these are not really maybe good assumptions, but let's start with it. And we consider the following setting. So we have k different price levels or tariffs. For each price level, the associated global consumption follows some distribution with some mean value. The mean value may depend on contextual variables, but here we assume that it's fixed to easier the notation and everything. And at each time step, first we receive the target consumption, then we choose the price level, which is like the arm in the bandit setting. Then we observe the global consumption with the associated mean, and we suffer some loss, which depends on the difference between the global consumption and the target consumption. So, for instance, you could assume like the square loss or something which says how much the true consumption of the clients differed from the target consumption. Okay, everything is renormalized so that this is in 0, 1. And the algorithm that inspired from UCB that we could use for this simple setting is the following. So you have some initial stage or initial stage during which you try each tariff once. You try each price level once to have an idea about the reaction, and then for the remaining time step, you first compute you observe CT, like the target consumption, and you compute like some estimation of the loss of each price for the next consumption target by averaging over all times you tried the price level k. What was the consumption? And what is the difference between this consumption and the target? So that if some price level got some consumption during the past time step consumption which was close to the target consumption, you would estimate its loss to be small at the next time step. So there is no context currently. And then after estimating the future loss of each of the price levels, you choose the price level or the tariff with the optimistic principle. So you build some confidence intervals for the next losses. And since here we have losses instead of rewards, when I was talking about bandits before, we were talking about rewards. Instead of taking the upper bound, we take the lower bound because losses are like negative rewards. and so it consists of just replacing the plus with the minus here in the bound. And we are optimistic, like we choose the price level which might have like the smallest loss as the next time step, and this is the one we chose. And actually we can show that for this choice the regret, which is a bit different from the preceding regret, is of order of square root of t. So without context, in this simple model, you are learning the price levels to track the target. And the regret is a bit different from the preceding, because here, since there is a target consumption, maybe you don't want to use, there is not a single best arm. Like maybe like a low price will be better at some times when the target consumption is high, and a high price is better at the times where the target consumption is high. So instead, in the previous normal bandit setting, the minimum over all arms is outside the sum. There is a single best arm for all time step, and here like the best arm changes at every time step according to the target consumption. So the regret is a bit different, but we can still prove some bound like this one. And what it means typically is it means that the average loss will be approximatively the average loss of the best possible tariffs to track the target at each time step. Okay, let's do some simulation in this simple model. So as you saw, yeah, we didn't assume any contextual variables, so we have to for the, but in reality, like the electricity consumption heavily depends on contextual variables, and so if you send some price signals, you won't have like a fixed expected consumption value. So to do the simulation, we use the we use the simulator of the preceding data set. And we assume that the consumption is like of the form of some non-deterministic dependence on the context. So non-deterministic dependence of the temperature, all contextual variables, and plus some random effect because of the tariffs, some random noise which depends on the tariff and which might be typically it will be positive for low prices and negative for high price. If you send a high price, this will have like a negative impact on the consumption. And so we model the consumption for some tariff as a sum of a deterministic dependence on the context plus some random variables, and we assume that we know the deterministic dependence on the context to remove the contextual parts of in this setting. And so doing this kind of simulation, we have like a time step which is not very realistic, which is every half hour. So every half hour you can try a new price that you send to the clients. You observe the consumption during this half hour and you update your strategy. And this is the beginning at the beginning of the simulation. Like you have like the January 1st and January 2nd, like of the year. And so the first day you try like here you have like the three for each time step. So the time is like this, like the horizontal line is like the time increasing. And here the three colors corresponds to the three tariffs. In dark blue it's like the high tariff, in light blue is the low tariff, and in green it's like normal tariff, normal price level. And so at the beginning the algorithm will try will explore, will try most of the price level roughly identically. Like okay, yeah, actually we run this experiment several times, like maybe I don't remember the exact time, 100 or 1000 times, and we looked at what was here it's the proportion of times for this time period this tariff was chosen by the algorithm. So like all this sum to 1, and here it means like roughly for this time period the algorithm first always chose the high tariff, then normal tariff, then low tariff, and then he started to explore. And so at the beginning we see that there is some exploration. It tries like roughly the same number of times all tariffs, and well, as time goes on, it starts to learn to use high tariff during peaks of consumption and low tariff during small consumption value. Okay, I didn't explain the top part. So in the top part, in black, you have the true consumption, and in red is the target. So you get some target in advance, and typically the target is higher when there is like a small consumption, and smaller when there is a lot of like a large peak of consumption. And what you try to do is to make the target in black match the line in red. And this is like at the end of the year. So this was the beginning with some exploration, and at the end of the simulation, after 1 year of learning, the algorithm always exploits. It's mostly exploiting. So using like a low tariff to decrease as much as possible the consumption, to increase as much as possible the consumption when there is some low consumption, and high tariff in dark blue when there is a peak of consumption to decrease as much as possible the consumption for peak of consumption. So at the beginning it was exploring a lot, trying to learn what was the tariff to track the target, and in the end it's exploit. It still explore a little bit because it needs to explore all arms infinitely often, but it's exploring less and less. Okay, there are some limitations of this toy setting. We were assuming that consumption is some non-deterministic dependence of context plus some random tariff effects, and you have like many arguments that can say that this is not unrealistic. First, there is some discrete assumption. We were setting the same tariff, the same price level to all clients, and so if you do so, you cannot match. Like you have three possibilities: high tariff, low tariff, because we only have three tariffs, three price levels: high tariff, low price level, and normal price level. And so you cannot match exactly any target consumption. You can just get three kinds of consumption. And so what we propose is, assuming we have homogeneous consumers, instead of sending the same tariffs to all consumers, we try to have some continuous set of actions where you choose proportions of consumers to which you send low tariff, and to which you send high tariff, and to which you send normal tariff, just to trying to adapt to any kind of consumption if you have some consumption in between. And then you might want to add contextual variables with some dependence on the tariff. Maybe the clients will not react the same way the clients will not have the same price sensitivity during the night and during the day, during winter when it's very cold, and during summer. And so you might want to add contextual variables. And you may want to remove the assumption that you know the dependence on context and try to learn it at the same time. Like learn everything. We want like to have a model that learn completely what's the shape of the consumption according to context and price. And so the question is, can we remove all of this assumption in some general model? And so we got the following setting, where we have like we assume that the consumption for some tariff, so it depends for each tariff, each tariff share, like each proportion of tariffs that are sent to the clients, the global consumption depends on the proportion of is some function of the contextual variable on the tariff, and it's like a weighted average of the tariffs that you chose plus some noise. And the noise in our model can depend on the tariff and can depend on everything. And actually, this function of contextual variable plus tariff, we assume that it can be there is some transfer function, for instance using splines, or there is some mapping of the contextual variables using kernels, for instance, that can make this function to be linear in some space, so that we have like a linear. The consumption will be some linear function of some transformation of contextual variable called price, and you get some linear function according to some unknown parameter theta plus some noise. And the model will try to learn this unknown parameter while optimizing the price levels. And so just this was just to recall, for instance, this model here incorporates the special case of GAM generalized additive models, because generalized additive models is just a special case of this model, so it's quite general and quite used in practice for electricity consumption. And so for this general model, we got the following setting or protocol. So this is the protocol. You have like some context space X. You have some set of possible consumption tariff proportion that you can choose. Like for instance, all distribution of all weights that you can choose for the tariffs. And you have some this transfer function that you assume to be known, but you don't know the parameter theta. And at each time you observe context xt, you choose the price levels. But here the price levels are any kind of distribution between all price levels that you share between customers. You observe the rate tilting consumption for the price level at the time t for the context and the price level that you chose, and you suffer some loss. And what you try to do is to learn the parameter theta while optimizing PT. And the aim is to minimize the regret, which is which we write as the sum of the distance between the consumption that you got, the expected consumption that you got between the price PT and choosing the price PT and the context xt, while the best possible strategy, which was chosen for each time step, the best proportions of price levels for each customers. And here, I don't know if I don't think I will have time to get into details into this algorithm, but the idea is just to adapt the preceding algorithm to this new setting. So it's inspired from from some contextual bandit algorithm. So multi-arm bandit, but with context. And the idea is to have like these 4 steps. At each time step, first you try to learn the parameter theta, which model your consumption. So first you estimate it using some kind of linear regression estimator. And first you estimate the parameter theta. Then you estimate the future loss for each choice of price levels p for the next context using the estimation of the parameter theta that you had. So with this model you get an estimation of the loss of all price levels. You build some confidence set for the parameter theta, but the parameter theta lives in a d-dimensional space, so it's multidimensional, and so it's like it's not a confidence interval, it's like a confidence set, which will be of this form. And from this confidence set for the parameter theta, you build some confidence interval for the losses, because you have like a confidence value. You know that theta belongs to some confidence set, so you know that the loss belongs to some value for each possible price levels. And from this confidence set, you select the price optimistically by choosing the best price levels using the lower bound on the losses. You take for each price level, so this is continuous, the price levels, because you have like this distribution space, and for each price levels you get some confidence intervals, and you choose the price levels that has the lowest lower bounds, because it's losses, not rewards, and you choose optimistically. So this is just a generalization of upper confidence band algorithm to context. first you estimate the parameter of your problem, then you build confidence intervals, and then you play optimistically. And using this, we could show a theorem that the regret, again, is of order square root of t. I won't go into details, but we can use sophisticated price level sets. So it's not necessary that, for instance, you can add constraints. You don't want to send at the same time. If you have some time level, you don't want to send at the same time a high price to some clients and low price level to some clients. You might want to only have only send a high price with normal price and low price with normal price. You know, because it's like it's not really optimal to send high price and small price, and so you can add this sort of constraints to the algorithm. But the issue is like then this optimization problem, when you try to play optimistically, is non-convex and might be quite hard to solve. Then we did some simulation with this algorithm. So the simulation are some ongoing work. So it's not totally finished. But what we observe is like we observe the same kind of behavior. The algorithm try to learn everything. So it starts by exploring, and then at some time it matches quite well some target consumption. I guess in black it is the true consumption. In orange, it's like the target consumption, and it's like it's for each time, each context, it knows how to choose the price level accordingly. So now I will conclude. So in summary, we designed and implemented some algorithms with some theoretical guarantees to track the target consumption according to signals that we send to clients. So there is this exploration-exploitation trade-off where you want to send new price levels or new signals to see the behavior, and you want to exploit by sending good signals. Of course, we did it with prices, but this algorithm could be used with any kind of signals. Like, well, I have no idea about what other kind of signals we could send to clients, but I guess we could have like other sensitivities that we could send to make the clients modify their consumption. And there are some of course a lot of feature work to do to make the model more realistic, even more realistic, or to add some, for instance, adding operational constraints, or even questions like here we had some target consumption, but how do you choose this target consumption? Is it reachable? Like you try to reach it by using different price signals, but sometimes maybe it's not possible. So how to optimize it and to do more experiments. So I guess here you can have like some references. Thank you.
Open the floor for questions and comments.
Okay, so from my talk back in the beginning of the week, I talked about sequential decision problems in the 4 classes of policies.
Yeah. Yeah, you talked a bit about
all
boundaries.
classes of policies have been applied to bandit problems. You've got one of them, UCB policies, which is a parametric cost function approximation.
Yeah.
The only thing you missed is normally people in practice parameterize UCB. They put a tunable parameter in front of the square root term. But there's other classes of policies, like knowledge gradient, Thompson sampling, value functions, Gittins indices, whatnot. There's a whole family of these policies, and any one of them can work well depending on the specific characteristics of your problem. So I would encourage you to sort of open up.
Actually, we also had a look at Thompson samplings and other policies.
Yeah, those are the you're doing the ones that are classically looked at within computer science. There's other communities that do, like my lab has done a lot with knowledge gradient, expected improvement. There's settings under which Monte Carlo tree search is appropriate. Has a lot to do with how much noise there is. You seem to mostly be doing frequentist models. Is that a fair statement, as opposed to Bayesian models?
Yeah, but I guess we also consider the Thompson sampling in our study, so which is more Bayesian.
It's whatever you want it to be. It
depends on the
But there's other classes.
But
in order to compare
but what you mean when you are talking about Bayesian, you mean this exponential weight algorithm? Like
no. It has to do with whether you have a prior on the uncertain parameters.
Yeah.
Whereas Like
But
your
for
UCB work is all frequentist,
Yeah.
and UCB community is fundamentally frequentist.
Yeah.
You can do much more interesting belief models. You could do correlated beliefs, but it did seem like you were doing a parametric beliefs. You had that model
Yeah.
toward the end with the linear belief models, and there's a whole body of research specifically for linear belief models, and there's other interesting. But the thing is, in the tariff problem, normally I think you would come in with some priors because people already have a rough understanding of how people respond to tariffs, and so you can exploit that and get much more rapid learning.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's but yeah, I guess we could add. I don't know if it's possible to add priors into ECB, but I guess it's possible to maybe start to.
Well, I would-
Here to start with. Here we used an estimate that only that doesn't use any prior, but I guess it's possible to use it in the regularization.
Yeah,
Or-
if you email me, I can send you some materials.
Okay.
I've got a book, but I'm working on a second edition. I'm happy to email you the second
Okay.
edition. But I would even have you consider to move outside of UCB. I tell you, my students love UCB. It always loses. So
Okay.
we have a lot of fun with UCB. I know it's popular in computer science because they can prove their regret bounds, but the empirical evidence is we generally haven't found that it works very well empirically. So you may want to open yourself up to the other three classes of policies
Okay, thank
and
you.
different belief models.
Yeah, this is just general comment about my easiness about with this kind of research, because what you are doing, you are modeling customer behavior using observed information and trying to fit it into data. So I think underlying assumption behind it, and then you are sending price signals to influence customers as you model them. So the question is that you are playing with the model, but to what extent the model reflects reality? Because the underlying assumptions seem to be this rationality assumption that customers behave rationally. It means to maximize their utility, which are basically the prices. And the secondary assumption, hidden assumption, is that the customer model is stationary. It doesn't change with time so much. So what I'm saying, and that's approach quite typical is in the science community, which model customer as a black box which behaves in a certain way. And I've had many discussions with social scientists who tear the hair out and saying this is wrong, this is not how you model customers, because customers' behavior is very complicated.
Yeah.
So let me just finish my observation. So I think one thing which is actually missing, and that fits to the next session, which is the conclusions, is who are missing in this room is we're missing social scientists, because there's research, your research, Sean's, and others. Whenever you're talking about the customers, you need to understand them. And I always say that scientists are ignorant and arrogant. They're arrogant because we think, I'm of course also an engineer scientist, we are arrogant because we think that we know how the customers behave, and we are ignorant because we don't. Right? So my plea is we need to involve social science community so that research like this one is based on the actual, what is happening out there really with how customers behave, rather than like we imagine that they behave based on some very simplifying assumptions and rationality assumption. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe just some rapid answer. First, the idea is okay. Here we have some parametric model, but and we assume indeed some stationarity because of the UCB algorithm. But in bandit algorithm, first it's possible to add non-stationarity. You have other algorithms, and I get here it's like a start in the research where you can you can use then after ECB other algorithms for non-stationary behavior of the problems. And even if you assume you can remove stochasticity, like there are some algorithms in bandits for adversarial bandits where you don't assume anything about the behavior of the customers, and there is some adversarial games between customers and you still try to learn how it behaves, how they behave, and try to match to it. And I guess this is a start with UCB algorithms, but then it's possible to do something else. But of course, if we had some social scientists, it would be much better to get more realistic models. I agree. Yeah.
Oh, gosh, okay. We do have a discussion session coming up.
Don't kill my.
Are there any quick questions?
I would suggest that you might restructure your model to accommodate the likely behavior of real customers.
Yeah.
So some, as people have said various times, some customer demands are completely inflexible. They want it and they're willing to pay for it.
It's in the future work.
Some customer demands can be deferred in time, and therefore a single time period model is inherently not going to work in representing customer behavior. And some customer demand is instantaneous and inflexible and is lost completely. They just don't make the cup of tea or whatever it was they would do, which tends to be more industrial customers and commercial customers and less domestic customers. So I think if you don't necessarily have deep social science, but I think you might like to give a little bit of thought to what customers are actually doing with the energy, rather than just assuming that they're putting it in the bank and earning interest on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but actually one of the future question we want to do is like to have non-homogeneous customers. Like currently we assume that all of them react the same way to price sensitivity, and we'd like to do clusters to maybe some of them won't react, some of them will react, and send different signals to all of them.
I'm reinforcing the previous point very strongly that you need to have a customer model which represents real customers at some level. And of course, the fact that customers are completely different from each other, completely different at different periods of time, and they have categories of demand which are bound to circumstances and time, is well known.
Any other quick questions or comments?
I'll try and be quick. So, first of all, two-sentence comment. I think, despite all the irrationality and differences between customers, I think still there are things you can learn at the group level that smooth out a lot of that. Exceptional events, kind of accepted. So it's still a warning flag there. My question for you is the. So you take the target consumption as a given, right?
Yeah.
So there is a certain kind of, I think, consistency requirement here that you're asking for something that can be delivered, right? So
Actually, we don't have this assumption. If it's not possible to deliver it, it will appear in the regret in the sense that okay, maybe you will be far from the target consumption, but the best possible choice will also be far from the target consumption.
So you would just get all high prices or all low prices.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You will give all high price to everyone, and maybe it will not reach the highest consumption, the needed consumption, but at least you try to do it. But I guess we should add some other constraints, like you don't want to send a high price too many times because customers won't be happy if you do so, or stuff like that.
Yeah, I was thinking of fairness constraints actually.
Yeah, or fairness constraints, or like. But I guess yeah, fairness constraints. When currently we just chose like homogeneous customers, so there is no fairness questions. But I guess there will be.
Okay, so if we.
Maybe I have a quick question. So you use a loss function there,
Yeah.
quadratic. Did you try out any?
Okay, yeah. Okay, for the simple model, we can use any kind of loss function. For this model, we could only do the theory with the square loss. So, but I guess in practice, the issue is like the square loss is convenient to build an estimator for theta, and when you have other loss function, it's harder to build an estimator and to get a confidence interval, and so it was easier to do it with square loss.
So can I suggest at this point we thank the speaker and indeed thank all the speakers this week.